guys, to the Followers of the Multiverse podcast. I am one of your hosts, David, along with Rachel.
Hello.
And Jason.
Hello.
And today we are beginning the Marc Webb, what's the term for two? A duology, I guess? I don't know if that's
I
a
don't think
word.
there is one.
Okay, the
that's right.
two... That's right? All right, if I'm wrong, just write it in the comments.
If not, that has every... by the rules of grammar, it should work. So in English, of course, it's not going to be right.
I'm a journalist. I should know. Anyway, we finished the Raimi
We're not
trilogy.
scientists, and
No.
that might come into play in this movie.
Yes. So we finished the Raimi trilogy last week, and you can now listen to our discussion on Spider-Man 3 right now. It's up on the YouTube channel and the podcast feed. A lot of thoughts, a lot of stuff, but I know y'all will enjoy it.
Actually, it bled into our discussion of the No Way Home trailer.
Yes,
so
it
it's
did.
actually the discussion of Spider-Man 3 is on several things.
That is why Jason and I almost decided to watch Amazing Spider-Man 2 last night, but we're like, no, we can't watch 2 or we're not going to want to talk about 1.
Yeah, I told Rachel, I was like, I will do nothing tomorrow night but talk about Amazing Spider-Man 2 if we watch it tonight. So
Yeah.
I gotta. I've decided I got to get it out of my system, and then I can move on to the next one.
Instead, I would like to talk about JFK, but I don't feel like this is the podcast for it.
That's our Oliver Stone podcast. But anyway,
let's just talk. John Williams goes hard. That's the entire podcast.
There you go. So, guys, tonight we are talking about The Amazing Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield's first film as Peter Parker / Spider-Man, directed by Marc Webb, came out 2011 or 12? 2011.
Yeah,
Okay.
we talked about this. We're like, is this 12? Everybody thought it was 12, and I think you actually said no, it's 11. So
You're right. I did say it was 11.
Yeah.
Here I am doubting myself. So 2011, and it's weird because the movie came out just 4 years after Spider-Man 3, and already tonally, visually, it looks so different.
I just realized, and I was thinking about this because of the way they came out. Like Spider-Man 3 came out in 2008?
2007.
2007. But it was already where they had graduated, and so it wasn't a high school Spider-Man movie.
Right.
They completely skipped any of the years I was in high school for these movies, so none of them look like my high school experience. They skipped the 2006 to 2010 years I was in high school.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's amazing how, obviously we see, see, that was a nice catch. It's amazing how seeing the Spider-Man coming out in 2002 and then seeing this one come out 10 years later, or almost 10 years later, and just seeing how in almost 10 years, how different society looks. Phones, just the way people are interacting, and like I said, obviously it has to do with the directing style of Marc Webb versus Sam Raimi, because Raimi does a lot of those quick zooms on characters, a lot of angular stuff, kind of like what he does in Evil Dead. It's a lot of that.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of a sense of humor.
Yeah, whereas this one felt much more grounded.
Yeah.
And once again, Rachel, you never saw this movie before. So what did you think about The Amazing Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield, all the things, Gwen Stacey?
I am going to go with Emily. Andrew Garfield is much more attractive than Tobey Maguire. Hot take, I know. I had to go with Emily here. I really enjoyed most of this movie, and then it kind of turned into a hot mess, but I still enjoyed the hot mess. It was an enjoyable hot mess. Spider-Man 3, the end of that movie is not an enjoyable hot mess. This was an enjoyable hot mess.
Sorry, I was muted there for a second.
However, the scene where they dumped all of the spiders on him was entirely unnecessary.
So walk us through that
Entirely.
moment. Walk us through that moment because I remember telling you, "Hey, watch out, spiders."
Yeah.
Walk us through
For
that moment.
those, I don't remember if we mentioned it with the first one. I'm terrified of spiders, and everybody in the chat knew that when we watched this. So, like 2 minutes before that scene, I get a warning from David to look away, and then 5 seconds later, right as it started, Emily goes, "Rachel, don't look. We'll tell you when it's safe to look." So, yeah, I made the mistake of looking up right after I get that. I'm like, "What? Oh no, no, no!" But yeah, no, yeah, twitchy for weeks.
The
Twitchy
spider
for
shower.
weeks.
It's a shower of
Man.
spiders.
But I kind of like the way that and I know some people have differing opinions on this as we do with everything. But the way they introduced the spiders in this movie, I thought it was kind of cool. Whereas in Spider-Man, it's just the singular spider that got out of the, little case it was in with the other ones. This one felt much more like, I don't know. It was very comic booky to me. Just
What?
accidentally going into this room and there are just dozens of spiders everywhere and, you know,
Nightmare. The word you're looking for is nightmare.
nightmare. Yeah. And like when he pulls the web out from the base of
Oh,
his
that
neck,
was
and he's just
nasty.
like, "Gah." Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was still attached to the web. That was
Yeah.
nasty. That was
And another thing that this movie does very differently is we get to start off with Peter as a little kid, and we get to see his parents.
I really liked that because I think I spent half of Spider-Man asking you guys what happened to his parents, and you're like, they don't tell us. And I'm like, but I need to know.
I'm sure, like obviously in the comics, but once again, I reiterate this: if you're looking for comic book lore, this is not the podcast for you.
Well,
Sorry.
I think that's if I could be very wrong about this, and please correct me, but I think even in the comics, up until I would say probably the 90s, they didn't really delve into what happened to his parents. He just was always,
He
just was always
aunt and
raised
uncle.
by.
Yeah.
Why are his aunts and uncles so much older than, like, it doesn't make sense.
Didn't you ask in the first one when you saw Aunt May? You're like, so is this his great aunt and uncle?
Yeah, because unless his parents had him at like 40.
Yeah. It's
Well, it's funny because the Uncle Ben in this one talks about his father, his brother. You find out that and you sort of you have to kind of go through. It's like so is Ben like 10 years older than Peter's father, or is he like 20 years older? Or is this like a Star is Born thing where the Bradley Cooper and Sam Elliott are brothers, but they're like 30 years age
yeah.
difference?
Oh man, I totally forgot about that.
So so it was just kind of like, I don't know, it was just odd.
Yeah.
And you get like a little bit. By the way, this is the beginning of Aunt May getting younger. She gets younger in every iteration.
Isn't she Marissa Tomei in the next ones?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I like her. I saw her in a reading at the beginning of the pandemic. I bought a ticket to a live reading of the play Beirut with her and Oscar Isaac, and it was really good.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, the next time they reboot Spider-Man, she will be Spider-Man's age, I'm guessing.
Yeah, right. It's just gonna be it's not Aunt May, it's Cousin May.
May.
It'll be Aunt May, and turns out Uncle Ben's looks for this gold digger.
Oh,
I will say this because I'm just such a huge West Wing fan. I loved Martin Sheen as Uncle Ben.
Me too.
I just like him. He's just got a real folksiness to him that I really dug, and then just.
I could not handle this movie killing Uncle Ben. It hurt every fiber of my being.
Let's talk about that because the way that Uncle Ben dies in this one versus Spider-Man, he gets shot in both, obviously, that's how it goes.
Yeah.
But the events leading up to and the reaction by Peter in both movies is very different. It's much more personal in this one in terms of, then why isn't my dad here to tell me this? Why are you telling me this? Mm-hmm. And like slamming the door and everything, whereas the other one was more in the same sort of vein, but like I don't know. This one just felt more like You know.
Yeah, it was heartbreaking. The thing is though, thinking about it, because I know we all went, "Oh my god, Peter, you just said that. That's horrible." But the thing
Yeah.
is, for an adopted teenager to say something like that would be pretty usual. The teens have a lot of big. I used to work with teenagers, so it's not out of the ordinary. And normally that would be something that would be totally smoothed over. And the tragic part is just it didn't get a chance to be.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Well,
not him being I mean, he's being an asshole, but it's like teenager assholery. He
right.
doesn't know his dad. It's hard. But
Well,
then,
what I
like,
what
he
I had
blames
forgotten.
himself.
Yeah, what I had forgotten though is that Uncle Ben leaves him that voicemail that he listens to a couple times throughout the movie.
Thank you. That rips my
Yeah.
heart out again.
I had completely
Yeah.
forgot that he did that because he listens to it at the end, and it's just kind of like
Yeah.
it's just Uncle Ben telling him, "We'll
And
always love you."
and right there, that's another huge difference between 2001 and 2011. You have the ability to include something like that,
Hmm.
whereas in the other one, you really don't. And I think what the comparison I make is that I think the emotional uh the emotional like thing about this scene in particular, it reminds me a lot of the one where Peter tells Aunt May what actually happened in Spider-Man 2. Like that for me it was the same emotion came out in both. Whereas the Uncle Ben dying, one was I think a little more emotional than the other.
This scene, that scene, I was not told I was going to feel. I was
Oh
told that I was
yes.
coming in to watch superhero
And
movies.
just you wait, because it's not over yet.
Yeah,
I hate
Um,
you
I will.
so much.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because as we were talking, as we were watching it, because I remember going in like when I originally saw this movie, like back in 2011 when it came out.
yeah,
I always had like a bit of a chip on my shoulder because my big thing going into it is I just felt like it was so unnecessary because we just saw how he became. I understand why they redid the origin story because they wanted to kind of, I don't know, make it their own. I get that, but I just sort of I was like, oh, it's just so unnecessary. We don't need to do this. But watching it this time, I actually really enjoyed it until about the third act,
mhm.
and we can talk about that in later. But like all of the scenes,
Lizard as a villain is unsettling, and I will go down with that.
no, it's absolutely fine. But any scene with Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield in this
Great.
was like magic. It was
Yeah,
they were so good together. And I know and you kept reminding me they were dating. I'm like, I know,
yeah.
I
My
get that they're
obligatory "they
dating.
were dating"
I
comment.
get that they were dating, but in the movie, they and I think I like Gwen Stacy better than Mary Jane. She seems to
Yeah,
have a little bit more agency. She kind of she isn't just the girl that Peter is mooning over. Like she actually helps with the plot and is
yeah.
like helps him out and
And just to be that person, just because two actors are dating does not mean they have good chemistry.
No,
I mean, you
but I
have
think
like,
for these two, the fact
yeah,
that they were probably allowed them to kind of reach another level
yeah.
in
yeah.
in that particular script. Um,
No, I totally get
because
that. I'm
yeah,
just saying it's
no,
never
for
a
sure,
guarantee.
right? Because like
I've done shows opposite people I'm dating and had great chemistry and fine, and I've had
yeah,
decent chemistry with people I'm not dating.
yeah, yeah. No, that's fair. And the and you'll see in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 that chemistry gets even deeper.
Yeah.
Like it's
I'm gonna
really
feel,
really
aren't
great.
I?
Oh, it's an understatement.
Well,
Uh,
you are and you aren't.
you will, you will. So another thing that I think which you just touched on with Gwen Stacy is Peter's high school life, because it's a departure from Peter in the Raimi trilogy where he is this very nerdy kid, whereas this Peter, obviously super smart, and we'll touch upon the suit and him building the web shooters and all that in a second. But the main criticism I've heard from people, and I even had this criticism when the movie came out, it was a very cool Peter Parker. Skateboard guy, a little awkward, but like I don't look at Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker and immediately think, oh, that's a science kid on par with, or close to Tony Stark. Whereas, not saying they did that any better with Tobey's, but I don't know. It was like,
well,
I think it was a reflection of 2010-11, the way he looked.
Yeah, well, I think the other thing though about about Tobey's Peter Parker is you're just told that he's a nerd. You're told that he's a geek, but
right.
You never really see that. Like you don't see anybody like ostracize him or anything in those movies. It's just sort of like you're just told that like the geekiest thing he does is like catch Mary Jane and all that stuff on a tray. Like you don't see them like sort of making fun of Peter.
Right.
Before he gets his powers. And in this one, I kind of feel like he wasn't so much a geek or a nerd as much as he was just kind of a loner.
Yeah, he was more of a loner.
He was just more of a loner. Yeah.
And Tobey in the beginning of Spider-Man, he's chasing the bus, gets tripped, is getting nudged when he's taking pictures, like that stuff that happens. But yeah, it's true. Like I wish I would have seen Peter like do more in terms of the academic stuff, which they again, it's other characters telling you that Peter's super smart.
Yeah.
And I think that's one reason why the whole organic web shooters thing probably took away from that, because that's a huge part of Peter's building the web shooters, and that being a huge plot device. Which they did do in Spider-Man 2, but what happens when you can't shoot any more web? It runs out. Now you have to rely on, your other abilities to do whatever you're doing. So let's talk about that now. Rachel, what did you think of this new iteration of the Spider-Man suit and how he used sunglasses for the eyes?
I liked that. I still find it highly unbelievable that any teenage boy would properly know how to sew a stretch knit. But I liked it. I liked the sunglass eyes. I liked him taking off his mask to show the kid that he didn't have to be afraid of him. Mm-hmm. That was really cute. But yeah, I think I liked the suit better.
You like this one better than the Tobey Maguire one?
It felt less like he was wearing his underwear on the outside. It was a little less.
Okay.
It was like a little more modern, maybe.
Yeah, I'll agree with Rachel. This suit feels very much less like it was built by the costume department at a major movie studio as opposed to Tobey's. Because isn't it supposed to be like a luge suit that he just kind of modified with put the spider on it and stuff?
Who, Andrew? Andrew's,
yeah. So
it's like he has that scene where it's like everything's spandex.
Yeah, and you see him doing sort of like the it's not tie dye, but what is it? The print on the front and the back of the spider. Yeah. So you get to see him do that. I remember being put off initially by because I just consider them black eyes and not the sort of the typical
the
white eyes, which I'm just so used to, not just in the comics, but just in the other movies. Yeah. So I was put off by those a little bit. I liked this one; they made a little bit more sense, but I don't know. There's something, and I know I just made the joke about it being made by by a Hollywood studio department, costume department, but that's the suit. The Tobey suit's just so cool. Like it's really
iconic now.
Yeah, I mean,
Andrew Garfield because it's tattooed on your arm.
No, but it is.
I mean, Andrew Garfield's suit within the world of that movie makes more sense.
Yeah.
but I mean, they don't. But I don't know. It's just such a cool suit. It's kind of hard to. It's kind of hard to hate on it, you know.
Yeah.
um. So I still. So I still think I prefer the Toby suit over at least the Amazing Spider-Man one. But I like the. I like. It's much more realistic in this one that it was something that he put together,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to. I'm going to draw on a piece of paper, and the next thing you know, he's got it. It's just sort of
Right.
like there's nothing.
That's just the way it works.
Just so stretch. Sorry.
Maybe he knows. Maybe he took a. Maybe his aunt showed him. Like, hey, you might need this skill at some point in your life.
Yeah.
And there you go. But yeah, I agree. I think the suit is. If you were to see any iteration of the Spider-Man suit in real life, I think you'd see that one. Just because I think it's probably the more for fun.
Practical?
Yes, that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
More practical. And, you know, they did I got to tell you, aside from like the dark eyes, you put white eyes on that suit and I think it looks a lot better.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think
know?
it's funny because one of the things I was listening to and watching about this is this movie owes a lot. I mean, it owes plenty to the Raimi trilogy, but it also owes a lot to Batman Begins and Dark Knight, where like in those movies
Yeah.
where they explain how everything is so real world, and it seems like they kind of went out of their way in this one until the giant
Right.
lizard shows up
Right.
to explain how everything is very grounded in real world, and like when he makes a suit, he gets sunglasses and puts those the eyes in the eyes, and
I feel
as
like that
opposed to, like,
explains
the
the
movie
science in a
magic.
lot of Marvel movies, that it feels very real and grounded, and then the aliens show up.
Right.
Yeah, and I feel like that's just I feel like we've gotten to a point with comic book movies, especially with Iron Man, where once that movie came out, and obviously the Spider-Man movies and Batman Begins and whatnot, I think for a long time people were a little afraid to aside from what's his face? The who directed Batman Forever?
Oh, Chris, Batman Forever.
Yeah, like those, like the
that?
Val
Oh,
Kilmer, the
Oh,
Clooney.
the Joel Schumacher movie.
Yeah, Joel Schumacher. So he really went for the campy, colorful comic
He
book
leaned
takes.
into the comic book take.
Like I'm saying,
although he put nipples on the bat suit.
yeah,
so.
I still don't get that. I am
Maybe
just,
he was just cold, okay?
listen. I think they did the same thing with the Ben Affleck Daredevil, although I'm not sure.
Did they?
I don't know. I'd have to look back. But the point I'm making is you could never. I don't think back then, aside from Joel Schumacher, you don't get the X-Men animated suits. You don't get Wolverine in the yellow.
No.
That's why they went with the all black.
It's
sleek.
a joke in the first X-Men movie. He's like, I can't believe you guys wear these things. And he's like, what should be wearing? Yellow spandex?
Yeah. So, which
Please
they
raise your hand if you
do.
would like to see Hugh Jackman in yellow spandex.
Listen, with this
Just
whole
me?
multiverse thing, you never know.
Just me? Okay.
But in First Class, they actually did have like a variation on the yellow,
Mm-hmm.
on the yellow suits. But yeah, and now they're making it more comic accurate, but more modern at the same time.
See, I thought you were gonna do it. I thought you were gonna do the thing with Iron Man about the science in it, because like in the first Iron Man, he's building his suit in a cave with a hammer, and then by the time you get to Endgame and Infinity War, it's nanotech, and it just magically appears all over him. So it's kind of like so.
I think that's just to be like, you know what? It's an easy thing now. We have to keep the story moving.
Yeah, he just presses a button on his chest, and all of a sudden he's got all the Iron Man stuff.
Right.
Versus my favorite superhero movie, which is she's a half goddess. It's fine.
Yeah. It's.
Oh,
and I get it. No,
I'm sorry,
Captain
Jason?
Marvel.
Oh, Captain Marvel. Oh, okay.
No, Wonder Woman.
Oh, Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but what Wonder Woman did really well was, I like the time they devoted to, like, I like what movies are doing now, where you don't have to go with a strict beginning origin story where you have to start out as a little kid. You can sort of, like what they did with Shang-Chi. He already knows everything, but when it's appropriate, you start to get the backstory. Like when they're on the plane, when he's talking about his dad. Like you start filling in those gaps. Because let me tell you, if they would have done the movie, and I promise we'll get back to Spider-Man in a second. But if you would have done the movie
I'll
where
talk about
he is,
Shang-Chi. I love that movie.
I love that movie too.
Let me tell you about Morris and why I need a Morris plushie.
Like they could have easily done a thing where he, doesn't have a clue what's going on. And then he's like, and then somebody tells him, "Oh, you're part of this," and da da da, and then, then you get like the training montage of how he's now this amazing fighter. But I love the way that he's like, all right, well, I guess it's almost like the Kanan moment in Rebels, where he's like, I'm about to let everyone in on a secret.
Yeah.
That's kind of that moment.
Yeah,
in a way.
Favorite.
Uh,
Katie in Shang-Chi, if you were going to put me into a superhero movie, that would be me. I'm sorry, your dad is who?
Now you know what the theory is about. We'll go back to Spider-Man in just a second, but I heard this theory the other day, and I'm like, I hope that's true, and I hope it's not. But the theory is that because he says in the movie that he killed the person that he was there to go kill, but the internet Reddit theory is that the person that he killed is Katie's grandfather, and that's why he's so close to the family, and that's why he's in the. Yeah, that was when I saw that. It like completely changed the movie. I do not want this pain.
How
dare you?
That kind of reminds me of Falcon and the Winter Soldier with Sebastian Stan and the old man.
Yeah.
Kind of like that. That.
When I saw that, and then I was rewatching Shang-Chi because now apparently when I'm bored I just put it on.
Yeah. So good.
That scene came up again, and I was like, it was colored in a completely different way for me. I was like, oh, yeah. Son of a bitch.
Yeah. So let's stay on sort of
off topic. Never.
Sort of no. Let's stick with character death for a second, because I want to talk about Dennis Leary as Captain Stacey.
Dennis Leary is. I don't know what other people think of him, but I feel like he's so underrated as an actor.
He's so
really
good.
What has he been
really
in?
Good.
He was on that one show, Rescue Me, for
Rescue.
a long time.
Yeah, and then he's been in a bunch of. Actually, one of my favorite Christmas movies, if you can find it, it's called The Ref, where he's like this. It's got Kevin Spacey in it, but it was before anybody knew who Kevin Spacey was. Right. Basically, Dennis Leary is a thief, and him and his buddy rob this place in this small town, and they have to hold up with this couple. Kevin Spacey's the husband, and they hate each other, but they're also hosting Christmas dinner, and so it's a really funny movie you can find. It's The Ref. Dennis Leary's great. Okay.
Apparently, he voiced the
Ice Age. Yeah, he does. Yeah, does the Ice Age.
The Diego's the Sabretooth, right?
Yeah, he's the tiger. Yeah, the Sabretooth. Yeah,
Diego was always my favorite.
God, I haven't seen those movies in years.
Okay, they lost me when it became. They're like Dawn of the Dinosaurs, and I'm like, that's not even paleontology. No.
Are you debating the science in the Ice Age movies?
The Ice Age was after the dinosaurs, Jason. There are very few things.
There are no rules in animation
that I hate as much as drawings of people, cavemen with dinosaurs. It's just no.
I was always taught that dinosaurs were only around 6,000 years ago. There's a whole theme park in Florida about it.
Oh yeah, Jesus. Anyway, that's another topic. But Dennis Leary's character, I think, obviously it's the you have to have that opposing side of, he kind of takes the role of J. Jonah Jameson in this movie.
I missed.
We can talk about that in a minute, but you just
because he's the guy that's like, oh, this guy's a vigilante, answers to no one, da da da. same kind of thing as, although J. Jonah took it a step further, calling a menace and basically asking for his arrest every movie.
But the thing about Jonah, about JJ is that he's also doing it to make money.
Yeah,
like he knows Spider-Man sells papers, and so he's going to
because that's what's God in America is capitalism.
Whereas Dennis Leary's or the Captain Stacy's just like, well, he's not a cop, and so. Although I did like it's the scene at the where Peter goes to dinner, which came out of nowhere. I don't know. I like the scene, but where he tells
Gwen went from dating the other guy to inviting Peter to dinner.
I don't think she was ever dating Flash.
Yeah,
I think she was just tutoring.
But the dad points out he's like about the car thief that Peter busts. He's like, yeah, that car thief was an informant. We were trying to get the ring. And because of Spider-Man, we couldn't. Yeah. And so I was like, oh, well, that's an interesting.
I like that he had character growth, because I feel like in some of the other ones, it's just somebody who's there to butt heads against Spider-Man, but they don't get the character growth because it all goes to the comic book villain, not the everyday villains.
Right.
Also, apparently, Dennis Leary voiced the Ladybug in A Bug's Life.
Yes.
In case you needed to know.
Yes. Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. I'm thinking of another one. Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, actually, it's also interesting because later on in the movie, like because of that conversation he has with Dennis Leary, when he finds out that the Lizard's up to no good, or Dr. Connors is up to no good, he goes to Dennis Leary. He goes to the cops, and they're like, get out of here. Yeah. And that's when he just sort of decides, well, I got to take care of this myself because these cops aren't going to do anything. Yeah. So. And then that was another interesting little bit I liked.
Yeah. And I mean, we'll just skip to it because it's the most significant thing that happens, to Peter and Gwen in terms of their relationship at the end of the movie. And it's the death of Captain Stacy and the thing he tells Peter, like, stay away, you have to promise me that, leave Gwen out of this. And then you get Gwen going to Peter's house asking, why weren't you at the funeral?
Actually, Emily had a very good point. She's like, he could have at least gone to the funeral.
He could have.
I mean, and he was there, but he was just hiding up in the thing. But
yeah, and then he's crying, and she's like, he made you promise, didn't he? And he says nothing, and then and I think that was a really sweet moment between him and Aunt May. When he's like, I'm no good for her. And then she's like, if anybody has any questions, they can talk to me. I thought that was a really nice moment.
I also sort of took that promise, when he's like, promise me. It wasn't so much that he was, I kind of felt like part of it, he didn't want the people who were trying to kill Spider-Man to accidentally kill her. But I think it also had to do with, he knew his daughter. And he knew that she was that if she's involved with him, she's going to keep wanting to sort of be a part of it. Yeah. And, because, she's the one that gives him the antidote to go up there. And we'll talk about the end in a minute, because that end is, oh, God. But, but she's the one that's like mixing the antidote and giving it to her dad to go up there to give it to Spider-Man. And like, and so, and he, he's like putting this together. He's like, this won't be the last time she helps him do something like this, and he's gonna get her killed. Yeah, because she's gonna want to help. Yeah. So I that's the other thing. I think it wasn't just him hating on Peter, but a little bit more of, I know my kid, and my kid's gonna keep helping you, and it's gonna get her killed. Yeah. So. So I did like that. Yeah, Dennis Leary. This is sort of my general consensus rewatching it. This is a really good movie. Like, you notice everything we've talked about, except for a couple of spots, is not the ending. But everything leading up to it is really good.
It's a good movie, and then we just take a sharp left into the Hot Mess Express.
Yeah, I'm trying to pinpoint at like when it
goes wrong.
Yeah,
I think the point it goes wrong is when it,
because even that fight with the lizard and Spider-Man at the school is great.
To me, Spider-Man is, and we'll see if No Way Home changes this. But for me, I've always loved the Spider-Man movies where the central conflict and the third act are very personal and don't have to have such a big you know like they don't have to have the biggest stakes for the entirety of like New York.
Yeah.
Like Spider-Man, it's
Not
Norman
every
and
not every
Peter.
Spider-Man adventure has to be the fate of the universe.
Yeah, right.
You know,
And this one was the fate of the whole city not turning into lizards. And that's why I really liked, Spider-Man 1 and 2, very personal, one-on-one. Norman wasn't trying to destroy New York in that fight.
Yeah.
Uh,
yeah. Well, Doc Ock was probably going to. He just didn't think he was.
Right. And but for this one, if it would have just been like a much more contained thing, like it could have been a little bit of a retread. But I think if Lizard would have captured Gwen and like threatened to, inject her with that serum or something, make it personal, make it, a little more grounded in that respect. But then you get it where every other time, Mary Jane was taken by Norman, he was taken by Doc Ock.
I like that
So.
he didn't have to save her.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he did.
I appreciated that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of does when she's like in the lab and the lizard's kind of tearing through it.
Or you could have done it like in Buffy. I don't know if you guys know the episode I'm talking about.
No,
I've never seen Buffy.
So there was an episode where where Sarah Michelle Gellar and David Boreanaz, who plays Angel, you don't know it when you first see the episode because until then they're like, he's the antagonist and he's with this other girl, and you think they're all at odds, but then at the end of the episode, you see that they've been working together the entire time and like getting into that situation on purpose. So if you kind of would have done that with Gwen, like, hey, he's gonna take you captive, but that's what we're going for here, and then you're gonna do this and da da da, and then make that like, a moment in the movie. I think that would have been pretty cool.
Yeah.
Do the Scooby-Doo trap and use Daphne as bait.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we're going to go back to Doctor Strange and saying that we're going to Scooby-Doo this
Scooby-Doo
crap.
Yeah.
Do this crap. No, I kind of I liked that he didn't have to save her. I appreciated that. I think, especially again because we just saw 3 movies where he has to save Mary Jane in all 3 of them.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of a nice change of pace.
Right.
We still got a funeral at the end, like all the other Spider-Man movies.
We did get a funeral at the end,
but we didn't have to save the girl, which was kind of a nice change of pace.
Yeah.
I would say before we get to the end, the other thing that bothered me, and I know that we have to have a rah-rah New York loves Spider-Man moment.
Oh yeah, the cranes.
The crane, the guy with the crane. And I get that the guy was grateful that because this is the thing, and this is why I hated it. Because initially, when he saves C. Thomas Howell or Ponyboy or the star of Soul Man, his kid in on the bridge, I was like, oh, cool. But when I saw him later as the crane operator, I'm like, they only got that actor so you would remember him when we do this stupid crane scene later. And I was just like, oh, it felt like, I mean, we have an entire movie where he's swinging around all the time. He's like, he's making it across New York in no time. But yeah, he's going to go like 10 blocks. And the only way he can get there is for all of these crane workers to move their cranes. It just was like, oh, come on.
Yeah. That reminded me of and Rich, you'll see this in a couple weeks. In Spider-Man Homecoming, where Peter ends up at somebody's house and he realizes he's out in like a field and there's nothing, and he just starts running. He's like, I can't do anything. I'm just gonna run through this driving range.
Doesn't he just shoot the web and it just goes off?
Yeah, it just goes off, and he's like, oh man, and then he's
it.
just running. It's so funny. And that's like the stuff that I really like sometimes when you're like, yeah, I'm sure you think you're someplace and then you're like, oh, I can't use this. I guess
Yeah.
I'll just run and try to make up ground.
But
But
yeah, but he could have like jumped on the back of a truck. Like there's so many ways
yeah.
he could have gotten
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah. It's that New York moment. That's what it was there
Just like
for.
we had to put this moment in where New York loves Spider-Man, and I'm just sort of like, I get it. The only people who badmouth Spider-Man are the bad guys and Dennis Leary in this movie. I think we're good. I mean, even Flash at the end has a Spider-Man T-shirt on because he's his hero now, and it's just kind of like, so
Yeah. Although I will say, I kind of miss the New York moment in these in the MCU Spider-Man movies. I kind of miss it because I've grown to expect it.
Yeah, it'll be weird. It'll be weird after watching these to go back into at least the first couple of Spider-Man MCU movies because
Yeah,
they're just so different.
yeah, they're very different. And it's so weird too because when you go to those movies, it's like with the Raimi trilogy and the two Marc Webb movies, you are building. I think each movie's like a little bigger, and then whatever.
How can it get bigger? He already saved New York from becoming giant lizards.
Oh, it gets bigger because
Oh.
Spider-Man, not even in Far From Home, he's coming back from having gone to, space and saving the universe. And then you have to scale it down.
I meant in The Amazing Spider-Man. Like you said, each trilogy gets bigger, and I'm like, he just saved New York from getting to be lizard people. What's next?
Oh, you'll see.
Oh, you'll see. Yeah,
see.
you'll see.
You'll see.
It's so. This is the other thing too. Like I said earlier, like it's 2/3 of a good movie, and even the stuff with him and Dr. Connors is good.
Yeah, I love that.
I liked but it was I guess this is it. The moment that the movie went off the rails is when he decides that everybody has to be a lizard. Like that was when I was like, okay, this movie makes no sense anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because I get it, he lost his arm. All of his research has been about regrowing limbs. Peter gives him this formula and he's able to do it, and then you find out that the mouse is a monster, but he's got all his limbs.
That was freaky, and I didn't need that.
Yeah. But it's the flip of, I'm a lizard. Everybody should be a lizard, and it was just like, what?
Yeah.
Like he didn't even. I mean, he says a couple of things early in the movie, like praising reptiles or whatever, but I never got the. There was no build to him wanting to turn everyone in this. That feels like such a studio note. It's like, okay, well, here's the point in the movie where he has to save the city. Save the city from what? From turning into lizards. Why does he want to turn them all into lizards? Doesn't matter. That's what we're doing. Like
it was a very video game kind of like final thing where if you don't complete the mission in time, the serum's gonna go all over New York and everybody's gonna get infected. It's kind of what it felt like to me.
Yeah, and it was like, and I don't know, and I guess the other thing is because the first 2/3 of that movie are so grounded as much as it can be in a Spider-Man movie, that when you see people on the street half turning into lizards and just sort of like, what am I watching? What did this turn in? Did I fall asleep and wake up and this is a different movie? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, I have one gripe with this movie.
Oh, I have lots of gripes with this movie, but it's all in the last third of it.
No, this one is when he's newly becoming Spider-Man and has the powers and everything. This is the one moment that I think, and it's for a lot of people, it could be like, okay, who cares really? But to me, this is unforgivable. You're telling me Peter and Gwen are sitting on the bleachers watching football practice.
Oh, yeah.
He catches the football, throws it, and freaking bends the goalpost. Nobody's gonna turn and be like, dude, how did you do that? How did you just throw a football and bend the uprights? That makes absolutely no sense for anybody to not say anything.
And the other thing, like, it would have been just enough for him to catch it and throw it back like a bullet, into the back to the football players. But yeah, you're right. He not only he throws it at the uprights, and then bends it. Which wouldn't that destroy the football? Like, it's not made of metal. It's made of like leather, rubber, and air. Like, it's not.
I'll tell you this.
Leather, rubber, and air.
Peter should have been all over the damn news and taken to some facility to test his strength. Because, sorry.
Okay, that is the other thing that I don't like about this movie, and it's even more so of a problem in the second movie, is they hint very heavily in this movie that in the Sam Raimi movies, and actually almost every other iteration of Spider-Man, Peter just happened to be bit by a radioactive spider, which gave him spider powers, and not cancer like it should have.
Okay, let me.
But
I'm just still the radioactive spider biting him should not give him cancer because he's not the one who's had the radioactivity. There is not enough venom in a spider bite to give you cancer from their radioactivity. The spider should be deformed.
Sure, that spider could.
Yeah. Okay. So you're cool with the superpowers, though.
Look,
listen.
I had to suspend disbelief a long time ago to make it through these movies.
If you told me, hey, this spider, it's going to hurt. You're going to go through like a little bit of an episode. By the end of it, you're going to be just a superhero. I'll be like, do it. Do it right now.
No, but the thing that they set up in these movies that I don't like is that he wasn't just randomly bit by a spider, but there's something in his DNA or his genetics or whatever that with being bit by this particular spider gave him these superpowers. And I don't know. I always like the sort of, I always like the sort of the randos that get to be heroes as opposed to you were genetically bred from birth to be a superhero. So that bothers me a little bit.
I can't get over the fact that David would willingly be bitten by a spider.
That spider, not any spider. Like, don't freaking come near. I hate bugs.
Superpowers out of it.
Yeah, if it's just a spider, no, get it away.
Yeah,
get it away. Get cockroaches away.
I don't care
get
how many
away,
superpowers I get. No.
Although I will say this, aside from the strength, there's not a. I mean, well, I guess the spider senses be a good sense, but like the wall crawling, that's kind of. It's nice to have, but not necessarily something that's.
I'm terrified of heights, so I probably won't utilize that much.
Well, he's not scared of heights. That's the other thing that's clearly because he's a spider. But yeah, but yeah, the sort of it's your destiny, Peter, to be the Spider-Man. I kind of was like, oh, come on, you guys.
Yeah.
He's not Harry Potter or Luke Skywalker. He's just the whole thing about Spider-Man. What's cool about Spider-Man is he's just a regular kid. Got bit by a spider.
He was a regular kid, wrong place, wrong time.
Wrong time, yeah.
He probably got a swirly 3 hours before this.
Right, and that's what's so kind of cool about Spider-Man. It's like it's why he's but this sort of thing. It's your destiny, Peter. It's like, oh, shut up.
Yeah.
Okay, so the one thing I noticed we haven't really talked about because we were avoiding the ending until now, but we haven't talked about the Lizard as a villain.
I don't mind the Lizard as a villain. Okay. I wish we would have gotten.
I don't mind him until he's like everybody has to be a lizard, and then it's just dumb. It's just stupid.
I think what I would have liked more with that story is if he turns into the Lizard, and then it's the back and forth of I don't know. I wish it was
Jekyll. Oh, sorry. Keep going.
No. I was just gonna say, I wish it was. I wish the Lizard was done in the Raimi trilogy because I think that one. I think they would have leaned into it, and while it probably would have been very comic booky, like it was with Doc Ock and Green Goblin, I feel like the relationship with Connors and Peter in that trilogy would have made him turning as the new villain a much more interesting thing, because you just have to, like, whereas Connors and Peter in that trilogy are friends, like he's his professor, da da da.
Mm-hmm.
In this one, you're kind of like, it's almost like they're a forced acquaintance because he knew his parents. It's not as organic as the other one.
Well, if they'd done it in the
me.
Raimi trilogy, you'd already had 2 movies where Connors and Peter were like, Connors was his teacher. That's how they knew each other.
Yeah.
And then this one, you're right. It's just like, oh yeah, well his dad, because his dad is genetically. I guess the other thing too about the lizard as a villain, like there was nothing that Spider-Man was going to do to him. Like I know this is rewriting the movie, but if the deal was Peter / Spider-Man was going to take away what the formula to keep him from turning into the lizard, and he loved being the lizard, then now you have more of a personal reason for them to fight.
Yeah.
But instead you have like this crazy thing where everybody needs to be a lizard, and Peter's like, no. And it's just, and I guess they never, they never should have,
I got
it was never established earlier in the movie that he even that Connors even leans that way, that he wants everybody to be a lizard, or you don't see him like punch out somebody wearing like lizard boots or something like that, like
right.
you know what I mean, like there's nothing to it, and so it's like, so yeah, you're right, like they're enemies because the script requires them to be enemies, and not necessarily because there's some sort of animus between them.
Yeah.
I got a real feel like when he started the experiments on himself. I don't know if you guys have seen any version of. I mean, obviously you know the story, but the idea of Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah.
No, I liked the Jekyll and Hyde part of it. I liked that he would wake up and he'd be like, "What the hell?"
And
but
it's also the idea that as he kept going, he didn't have control over it anymore. That it became like the evil part of it, or the weird lizard part, leached into who he was.
But he makes the decision to turn everybody into lizards while he's Dr. Connors, not while he's the lizard.
That's true. If
he had made that decision while he was the lizard, then I get it. But he makes
sort of leeching into his brain. But
but
the lizards aren't okay. Rachel soapbox. Reptiles are not inherently evil.
No, they're not. So why is this lizard evil?
I don't know. That's my thing. Is I get that. I feel like it's supposed to be a Jekyll and Hyde as that madness starts to get into his self, but I don't know why being a lizard makes you violent. Other than if I turn into a giant lizard, I'd probably stomp the city of Tokyo just because I could.
Well, did they just not have the budget to keep him as the lizard for that scene where he makes the decision to turn everyone into lizards?
I think a thing that they were maybe going for is, and it's sort of the theme of a lot of the villains, at least the more scientifically inclined. It's almost like their ambition and ego is their downfall. Like I feel like maybe in the lizard's case, because like when he's doing that presentation for the students, he's like, I want to rid the world of weakness. And that's like the basis of him trying to, regrow the limb and everything.
Not even going to get into the disability issues in this movie because that's another podcast.
So like I get where the serum starts to peel back that layer of the character and sort of make it amplify it more and more and more.
Twists it.
Yeah, and then probably that's why he's like, okay, this is the way for everybody to be cured in my mind, and
if I have to have a forked tongue and shed my skin, everybody does.
Yeah.
There is something, and I said this earlier, there's something really freaking unsettling about human-reptile hybrids, at least to me. And I think it comes from a book I read as a kid where that was the evil supervillain's plan.
What?
Just really really unsettling.
Well, I guess also what I'm trying to say is like if they had kept him as the lizard when he made that decision, that way, then at the end when he comes out of it
and saves Peter,
he has that moment of, oh my God, what was I doing? What was I thinking?
Right.
But he doesn't have. He makes the. I guess that's the thing. He makes the decision while he's Connors and not while he's the lizard. And I know we can talk about how it might have been messing with his brain or whatever, but it just. He needed to somehow, and I know I'm rewriting the movie, but he needed to somehow enjoy that power of being the lizard and being like, everybody should feel like this all the time.
Yeah.
I'll make everybody a lizard. It'll be great. Like, we didn't get that. He's just sort of like, if everyone's a lizard, it's just sort of like, what?
Yeah. No, I don't doubt that it's strong to a point, and then it kind of just doesn't really make much sense in terms of motivations after.
And again,
looked really cool though.
And again, the movie is like so grounded, again, for a Spider-Man movie, it's like super grounded. And then it just so goes off the rails on this like crazy, like, again, like you said, video game Resident Evil kind of thing. It was like, what are the kids like? Resident Evil? All right, well, let's make the end like that. Like, it's just like, it didn't feel organic, I guess is probably the best way to say it. It didn't feel organic to the rest of the movie. I mean,
J. Jonah Jameson wrote the ending.
I mean, even Spider-Man 3, that's a little bit more organic than this.
Weird.
Yeah. So, and I guess it's the other thing too. Is like, because I know I said this when we were talking about Spider-Man 3 and how I like going into Spider-Man 1. I ended up liking it. I ended up liking this movie a lot more. Like the first 2/3 of the movie was like, oh yeah, this is a good movie. Why did I crap on this movie? And then we got to the end. It was like, oh yeah, I remember now. This end. I remember now.
Yeah.
So
Lizard is not my favorite villain.
You could take him out with a cold front.
But what I will say,
he'd just stop moving.
The lizard's not lasting one New York winter.
What I will say though,
why is he moving at night? There's no way he should be moving at night.
He should have been sunning himself on a rock in Central Park.
What I will say though is that
his eyeballs dry out.
That the lizard does have, for me, one of my favorite special effects moments, and it's when Connors wakes up and his arm is back, and he peels that layer off, and he's just like looking at it, and the makeup and it looked incredible.
No, that's a great scene. That's a great thing.
Like, I love that moment.
But that's not the end of the movie where everybody needs to be a lizard.
No.
He hasn't hit that point yet.
No. But I thought that was a really great moment.
I mean, even if he wanted to like just turn like turn like a bunch of like vets who had lost limbs in wars into like his personal lizard army or something would have made more sense than everybody in New York needs to be a lizard.
Yeah.
It just didn't make any sense. And it was so
he was trying to take care of the cricket problem.
Is that it? Is that the problem? The damn crickets in New York?
Could be. Who knows?
Would that have also turned all of the mice in New York? Because we saw that the lizard serum turns mice into monsters. Would it have turned all the mice and rats into New York?
Any living creature. And I mean, theoretically, if your dog got hit with it, it would have turned it into a lizard because
the stakes just got higher if dogs got involved.
Yeah, I mean, so
I think if you got it, you were screwed.
Nope.
But I mean, overall, since we're wrapping up here, coming up on an hour.
Yeah.
Overall, let's continue with our rankings.
Yeah,
where
but
would y'all rank?
This. I'm not gonna do the crazy ranking like I did last time. Let's just rank them in order and not like give them a numeric value.
Yeah, just order
on the list. I realized the next day that I made that far too complicated. so
at least you didn't do your one where you couldn't use 7.
That's actually a good one. I wouldn't. I might bring that back. That's a good one.
Okay, I'll just go first. Obviously, Spider-Man 2 at number 1.
Really?
Although
the last time you said, I thought you said
no, I said 2. I think I said 2.
It was Emily and I that said 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
2 and 1 are like right there. They can honestly be interchangeable.
Mm-hmm.
And then The Amazing Spider-Man, and then Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. I did, like I said, up until the end, up until he has to defeat the bad guy, I was really digging this movie and like kind of appreciating some of the things that were different about it from the Raimi ones. And then it gets to the end, and I'm just like, nope.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm 2-1, Amazing Spider-Man 3.
And Rachel, I guess you're 1-2 Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, and then 3.
I think she's 3.
I'd tie this with Spider-Man 2. The beginning was that strong for me.
Really?
Nice.
Okay, so on ranking them by 4, we have that, and then those 2 are tied as 2, and then somewhere around a 7 or an 8 is Spider-Man 3. There's like 4 blank spots on this.
Yeah, I agree with you, Rachel. Though the chasm between Amazing Spider-Man and Spider-Man 3 is pretty huge.
Yeah.
I would say the
I
chasm.
this with Spider-Man 2 for me. I really enjoyed this movie as much as I have shit on it for about an hour. I liked this movie.
I liked it up until, like I said, up until the third act. I really liked it, and then it just made everything made no sense to me, and everything was way more complicated than it needed to be, and like we got the cranes.
The beginning was strong enough though that I was compelled enough that it goes up there.
Yeah, yeah. I would say it's not on for me on my list. It's not on par with Spider-Man 1, but it's closer to Spider-Man 1 than it is to Spider-Man 3. If that makes any sense.
Now we're getting into micro listing.
I know. I can't help myself.
Oh man. Well, guys.
Why do we do movie podcasts?
Okay, David. Should we
Yes.
tell Rachel who was in The Amazing Spider-Man 2? Because I don't think she knows.
What do you mean?
Oh, do you not remember who's in The Amazing Spider-Man 2?
Wait, who are we talking about? Like villains or?
No, there's a actor/actress who is in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 in a very small role.
Oh damn! I'm gonna have to. Amazing Spider-Man 2. I haven't seen that often.
All right, I will spoil it, and then we can watch. Should I spoil it, or do you want me to wait? Because
Rachel, it's up to you.
Go ahead, tell me.
Felicity Jones is in The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, she is.
In a very small role that if they had made more movies, it would have.
She would have had a big part. Yeah.
Yes, but.
When can we watch it?
It's Felicity Jones with an American accent, which is super weird.
Yeah, it's very strange.
Okay,
Very
it
weird.
cannot be as weird as Benedict Cumberbatch with an American accent.
That's also true. But
Martin Freeman with an American accent too in Black Panther. I was like, what did they do to you, baby?
yeah, so I was like, should I wait and like until we to sit down to watch it? And it's like, no, now she has something. Now she has hopes to be dashed.
Yeah. But anyway, guys,
Way too much fun.
that's gonna do it for us today, talking about The Amazing Spider-Man. Next, obviously, is The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
That is how
which
numbers
should
work.
be
Yes.
a lot of fun. Yes,
That is how numbers work.
and we're getting ever closer to Spider-Man No Way Home. Again, tickets went on sale yesterday by the time you are listening to this episode.
Now, David,
hopefully I would have gotten the first showing, Dolby screening.
Have you heard the rumor?
What?
There's a rumor that there will be another trailer.
I don't want to see anything else.
Okay.
I don't want to see anything else. They've already released like 7 TV spots.
Yeah,
it's what's happening now is what happened with The Force Awakens in like October, November of 2015.
Yeah, but because tickets are going on sale Monday, they want to give like a new little.
Yeah, no, I don't need anything else.
Little impetus, and we might.
I don't need anything
It's already
else.
in.
I don't need anything else. I'm in.
All right.
I've been
But
in.
they show you
since...
anything at this point that would make you not go see this movie?
No.
What if they confirm Tobey Maguire is not in it?
I'll still go see it.
No, I like the movies enough. I'd still go see it without
Yeah.
those guys in it. I'm trying to think of what it would take to get me to not see it.
if they're in it, I would,
Maybe
just lose my mind. But if
Maybe-
they're not in it, whatever.
maybe Spider-Man wants to turn everybody into lizards might turn me off.
Yeah.
Yes.
All I'm saying, I'm honestly, and I'm not even joking when I say this, I'm debating going to the movie wearing a black suit.
Wait, like a
Like a black jacket, slacks, and a black
okay.
shirt
I thought you meant like
as
a
an
black
homage
Spider-Man
to Tobey
suit.
Maguire in Spider-Man 3.
Oh, I thought you. Oh, okay. You're gonna dress up like emo.
Yeah. Gonna dress up as emo Tobey.
You gotta do the hair though. You gotta have
Are
the
you going to do
do
the
the hair.
eyeliner? I will fly down to Florida
I'll
and
do
put
it all.
eyeliner on you.
guy liner.
I'll do it all. I'll walk into the door, I'll open the door and then do the finger guns. And then just walk in.
Dance. I need you to dance.
We're gonna do it.
Please,
It's
baby.
gonna
I don't
happen.
ask for much.
Oh, man.
That'd be so good.
But anyway, guys, thank you for listening. Watch out for our new episodes, and hopefully, I will not, lose my mind at the theater. But I probably will because it's a Spider-Man movie.
Spoiler alert,
And,
he's going to lose his mind at the theater.
I'm gonna lose my mind.
May the force be with you
No
all.
question about it. But all right, guys, see you next week. Bye bye.
We're going.
Jesus Christ.